Good morning. It's time for the April reading recap. It is the beginning of May, May 1st, and I certainly hope you had some wonderful, amazing reads in the month of May. So I'm going to go over my reads in May and how I did and where I'm at on my 2020 reading challenge. So if you are interested in this, you want to know what I read in May, you want to know where I'm at with my reading challenge, be sure to stay tuned because that's coming up next on Drew's Book Reviews. Okay, so first of all, I set a reading challenge, a reading goal for myself this year of 55 books. I'm currently sitting at 22 of 55 reads for the year. So I feel pretty confident I'm going to hit that goal, as it's been going pretty well. I got through about 6 books this month, so I'm really happy to see this goal is progressing well and is progressing at a rate that works for me. Really looking forward to that. Maybe next year I'll shoot for 60, but I was going with 55, so averaging a little more than 1 book per week. I think that this year I've been reading a lot of really good books, really enjoying a lot of the stuff I'm reading, much in the fantasy genre, of course, but also trying to work a little more nonfiction into that. So I did actually have 1 nonfiction book this month, and I hope to get more involved there. I got a bunch of Brian Greenberg books recently as well, so look forward to reading those in the upcoming months. Do have a pretty big TBR pile right now. We're looking at about 60-ish books with even more on order yet, so that TBR pile just keeps on growing. But to get into the books that I have read this month, so we are starting with first book I finished this month was Baptism of Fire by Andrzej Sapkowski. So this is book 3 from the Witcher series. This follows the Witcher, as it's promptly named, Geralt of Rivia, and his adventures and the kind of things that he gets involved with. He's basically a magical demon or monster hunter. So The Witcher follows Geralt of Rivia in his adventures. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars rating on Goodreads. It was a good book. I am really liking the entire Witcher series. I've got more Witcher on my TBR pile I just haven't gotten to yet. But definitely, if you like that fairy tale fantasy genre, I tend to be a fantasy fan regardless of what type of fantasy it is. I do admit I think the epic fantasy is probably by far my favorite type of fantasy. But this Geralt of Rivia, The Witcher, kind of a dark fairy tale type fantasy is what we find in the whole Witcher thing. Baptism of Fire, I gave a 4 out of 5 star review on Goodreads, so definitely go and check that out. The next book that I read was Vulcans Glory in April. So this is a book that was written by D.C. Fontana, one of the most acclaimed writers in the Star Trek franchise, writing primarily during the era of the original series. So this one is all about Spock and his first mission under Captain Christopher Pike, and they're seeking out what is termed the Vulcans Glory, or this is a jewel that has a lot of ancient lore attached to it in Vulcan society, and has been lost for ages and is believed to have been found. This one I really enjoyed as well. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, so I didn't think it was absolutely amazing, top line, top notch, best book ever type level, but a 3 definitely means that I still enjoyed it. And DC Fontana's writing is pretty good. There's a reason why DC Fontana is one of the most acclaimed writers from the original series. So I mean, if you're a Trek fan, definitely pick up Vulcan's Glory if you have not read it already. Really good, really enjoyable read. I enjoyed it, gave it a 3 out of 5. But honestly, books that tend to follow established franchises like Star Trek, like Star Wars, they don't often get a super high rating. It usually ends up in a 3 with me. So definitely don't take that as a reflection of the overall writing, just kind of how I tend to land on books that follow those types of genres. So The next one up is Ship of the Dead. Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, Ship of the Dead. So this is a young adult fantasy novel with the Gods of Asgard. So the Norse mythology mixed into the whole plot and everything there. This one I did enjoy as well. I gave this one again a 3 out of 5. Again, that just tends to be where I fall when it comes to young adult. More cases than not, it's a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Definitely not a reflection of how good the book is. That being said, like, it is young adult. It's definitely written in a manner that goes towards the younger audience, or the young adult audience, not really the old adult audience, so to speak. But I did enjoy it. I mean, I love the mythology. I like ancient Greek and Roman and Egyptian mythology, as well as the Norse mythology. So it's really fun to kind of have a kind of adventure style book mixed into that, with those different mythologies mixed into the mix. So really, it was an enjoyable book. It was good, it was funny, it was witty, a lot of humor. It really is a light-hearted, humorous mix of the Norse mythology and the modern world. So, and young adult. So if you like the young adult genre, you're going to like Rick Riordan in general, not just the Gods of Asgard. But yeah, definitely that is an enjoyable read. And then what we also have is a crack in creation. Gene editing and the unthinkable power to control human evolution. This is absolutely, I think, going to be one of my top favorite reads of the year, if not for the month of April at the very least. So this one I definitely gave a 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Absolutely loved it. Gene editing, genetic engineering, genome sequencing, that kind of thing is, I love the science stuff. I love the biomedical science. I love the physics and quantum and mechanical physics, things like that. So this is kind of right up my alley. A crack in creation. It really challenges the things that we're dealing with in the modern world. The ability to control human evolution, genetic engineering, the moral and ethical dilemmas that stand in our way with that. Should we? Just because we can, should we? Think the moral implications. Where do we draw the line on what we're going to allow when it comes to genetic engineering? And what do we do, and how do we deal with those who cross that line? So really, it is a fantastic read. Jennifer S. Doudna and Samuel Sternberg, both of which are essentially the creators or discoverers of the CRISPR technology. Definitely, if genetic engineering, if biosciences, things that you are interested in, this is absolutely a must read. A crack in creation. Definitely worthwhile. Again, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. And then we have, moving on to the next one, we have Wrath of Empire by Brian McClellan. So this is another fantastic book by Brian McClellan. This is flintlock fantasy, military fantasy. This is from the Gods of Powder and Blood, or Gods of Blood and Powder series. This is his second series in the Powder Mage world. Now, the Powder Mage trilogy was, of course, the first trilogy that Brian McClellan wrote from the Powder Mage series. This being in the second trilogy. This is book 2, of course. So overall, though, it is absolutely fantastic. I would highly recommend it. Blood of Empire is the third one, with Sins of Empire being the first one in this second trilogy. But Brian McClellan, Wrath of Empire, definitely recommend it. I am loving the whole Powder Mage world that Brian McClellan has created, with the guns and the magic system being based off of basically this drug addiction of powder, or which is gunpowder, essentially. Really enjoying that. 4 out of 5 stars for Wrath of Empire by Brian McClellan. Definitely worthwhile. Check it out. And then the last and final book that I read in the month of April is Jim Butcher, Turncode, from the Dresden Files. Overall, Dresden Files is an amazing series, especially if you kind of like that fantasy mixed with the modern world. So this is kind of like the wizards and werewolves and vampire type fantasy, but you know, it's definitely not that cheesy romance vampire type stuff. Definitely the seductive qualities of vampires are definitely playing a role within the stories overall. But overall, Turncode, it wasn't the best Jim Butcher book for me, or the best Dresden book for me, but it was still a really good book. I'm really loving the character of Harry Dresden, Chicago's only practicing magical investigator wizard for hire. And of course, we have our wizard, Harry Dresden, who gets himself into all kinds of trouble. Just constantly. He can't seem to stay out of trouble. And I am absolutely loving the Dresden Files. There is more to come. I'm currently reading Changes, which I expect to finish up pretty quickly here. And then there's a few other ones, such as Ghost Story, that's coming up on my to-be-read list from the Dresden Files. But yeah, definitely check it out. Check out Dresden Files. Highly recommended series. I am absolutely loving it. So that pretty much wraps up my April reads and how I did on my Goodreads challenge for this month and where I'm sitting at so far. Have you read any of these books that I've gone over in April? Are you going to read? Do you think you might read some? What are your thoughts on that? Tell me what you think in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you like this kind of content and book review content. I'm going to keep putting these out. Of course, I'm going to try to remember to put a month in review video out every month. And I do want to thank you for watching today. Absolutely do appreciate it. You guys rock. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next time on the next episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Until then, keep on reading. Bye.